Ty Brady here with Brady Insurance Marketing and the Ty Brady Way. As a successful entrepreneur myself, I'm passionate in helping other entrepreneurs do the same as they rise from rags to riches and get inspired each week on the stories they tell here at the Ty Brady Way. Welcome back to another episode of the Ty Brady Way. Today I have the pleasure of talking with Gary Brown. And, Gary, a little bit about you, at least from what your media team reached out to me, and they listened to my episodes, and I've had a couple of their guests on before. But, everybody on the show seems to find a niche, but everybody wants to find out or hear how you actually found that niche. So, Gary, tell me a little bit about your background and your history.
Sure. Well, I can tell you what I'm doing now is nothing that was planned going through college in my early years out in the workplace. But I started my career. Well, I'll start with my dad. My dad had a really good friend who was an attorney and a CPA. The dad says to me, you can do anything you want in life as long as you're an attorney and a CPA. So that's what I did. I did that for just a handful of years, a couple of years in public accounting, then switched to being an attorney, mostly concentrating in real estate. And that quote unquote professional life only lasted 5-6 years. My brother and I, who've been partners since our 20s, it's a long time now, we started to invest in real estate at a very young age. We bought our first homes in Manhattan, again, in our 20s. And in a couple of years, we were able to flip those and made some good money. And we said, boy, this real estate thing beats, working by the hour, working for a living. So, long story short, we got involved, in our 20s and 30s, maybe into early 40s, investing in New York City real estate. And from there, one day, my brother Steve, looked at the New York Times, and so there's a whole section for furnished apartments. And he said, oh boy, well, Dad had we grew up in the furniture business. Dad had a high-end retail furniture store in Fairfield County, Connecticut. We said, we could furnish our apartments and maybe make another $200 or $300 a month in rent. So we decided to do that. We owned some townhouses in Manhattan. And one day we had an open house for our 10 apartments, all furnished. Dad helped us out. And literally in a day, all those apartments rented like within literally a couple of hours. So from there, we had other inventory, other apartments in Manhattan, mostly townhouses, some co-ops and condos by that time. And one day, one of our competitors, who's a competitor of ours today, said, we'd like to rent all your apartments. We said, kind of like, why? And we looked into it some more, and we realized we were part of this multi-billion-dollar industry called corporate housing, which we really didn't even know existed until that time. And, again, long story short, 27 years into it, we're one of the largest corporate housing companies in the U.S. with a global reach. I don't want to sound like a commercial here, but we book our clients around the globe. You name it, we'll book a client there. That's kind of my backstory.
So rather than, putting someone up in an apartment, these corporate companies reach out to you and say, hey, we got a temporary position. We need them 6 months, 8 months. And then they'll book through you. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's part of it. Sure. I mean, we have a large sales team reaching out to corporate America, but it's not just corporate America. It's individuals, people relocating, people getting divorced, grandparents coming to town and, to visit a new grandchild for a month or two. So it's really, everybody needs to come. Well, we're based in Manhattan, but, our reach is, again, I don't want to it's not like commercial, but we're all over the U.S. Our prime markets are Manhattan and in Jersey, Boston and Cambridge, and then Northern Cal, San Francisco and Silicon Valley. But, people they get relocated for jobs. People come, people on Broadway, any movie made in the Northeast, we're going to be involved with both cast and crew. We may not get Tom Hanks, but we'll get other actors and cinematographers and the like.
So in the early days, you flipped a couple of houses, and when did you decide to go all in with short-term rentals, or do you have some permanent rentals as well? And you have a portfolio of a little bit of everything. What
Sure.
point you're like, hey, there's something to this.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing what the demand was like. We started in 1998. It was an interesting time. We were guns blazing. We were just adding inventory like crazy. Not only, well, at that time, we had relationships with other of the major developers in Manhattan, and after we finished furnishing our own properties, we reached out to them and started renting, blocks of apartments in their buildings. And then 9/11 happened, right? So just 3 years after we started, here comes 9/11. We had 32 apartments. So I remember it like it was yesterday, down, right in the heart of that zone, that war zone. And we had, banking folks and tech people down there paying a lot of money for apartments, right? And then 9/11 happens, and well, they all left. And now we're renting apartments to construction workers, the team that was in charge of all the lighting down there. It really changed how we operated for that period of time. So that was kind of crazy. So we really, in our 27 years now have, we lived through 9/11. We lived through the recession of 08, 09, COVID, of course, and now today, which is, the world is upside down, right? So we've had to be quite creative in how we operate.
When you look at, again, the early starting of, your dad says, hey, do this, right?
Yeah.
When did you finally decide to pivot? Because a lot of folks like me, I mean, I don't think I could ever go work for somebody again as an entrepreneur. I want to be able to have autonomy and control my schedule. And there's a lot of pros and cons. There's a lot of people that are like, hey, I just want a paycheck. They want to work 9 to 5, go home and disconnect.
Yeah.
When did you say, okay, I'm pulling the ripcord. I'm not going to go punch a clock?
No, really good question. And I'm somewhat jealous of those 9 to 5ers, to be honest with you. I look back at my career and say, that's not a bad deal, right? Maybe, you don't maximize, how much money you're going to make and all that kind of thing. But, so there's a lot of good that comes with that 9 to 5 job. You go home and maybe you don't have to think about work so much, but to this day, I'm 24/7, but, I know the moment where I decided, I'm going to give up my professional career. And frankly, it was, we bought a townhouse in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And within 9 months, we did some things to the property. We actually vacated the building, did some tenant buyouts. We had rent control tenants in there, and we flipped the building. And my brother and I were 50/50 partners as we are today. And I made 1 year's salary based on that one flip. And I said, you know what, that's enough. And we had done enough, of those types of things in the prior couple of years. I said, all right, I really like this. I really see that we can grow this business, this real estate investment business. And that's when I gave up my professional job and just was all in on real estate. And then, it's been a long ride, but doing that for a lot of years.
There's a lot of risk and a lot of reward. I mean, I had a background in construction. I ran a $33 million construction company, built thousands of homes and big developments. And then, of course, the 08, 09, that era. And I was given my last, I didn't get a last paycheck, because basically there's the door, and I couldn't get a job. And then it took a while to rebound. But my strategy was to build a house every 2 years and then either keep it. And so then in 10 years, I had a house that was free and clear. That didn't work. I had 15 houses, and I was able to keep 2 of them, but I lost a lot, right? That risk reward type deal.
Oh, yeah.
What are some challenges? I mean, I know when I was running a construction company, it's you leverage a lot, and there's a lot of money out. So what are some challenges that you faced over the years?
Yeah, I'll go back to my dad again. When we started getting involved in real estate, he says one thing you're never going to have enough of is money. And that's the challenge, because real estate is quite expensive. You're leveraging, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we started our career, Steve and I, that's my brother, and not so unusual. We had $300,000 of credit cards. $300,000. Back in the day, you can get all these credit cards that came into your mailbox, and you'd play the game. They'd say, all right, take a cash withdrawal, 0% for 6 months. And of course, the hook is after 6 months, it goes up to 20% or something. So
Yeah.
we played that game, but we also knew at the time that what we were buying, we saw the end game. It was a short term flip. We knew we were going to make money. So it was just like, how can we get money? We borrowed money from friends and family, paid nice returns to them, paid back every dollar. But when you're in real estate, Furnished Quarters, we're a big company, takes a lot of cash, so we're always doing something different, expanding, like six money. So that's always a challenge, and any entrepreneur will tell you that the same story. There are very few companies out there, entrepreneurs, where like they're just sitting with a lot of cash sitting idle. We're always putting our cash to work.
Yes. Yes. In the beginning, you really did play the game of credit cards back in the day. We're like, hey, 6 months, you do a balance transfer, you get it for a year. And you would just you started out that way. That's amazing. Well, at least some of it, right?
Got a lot of miles out of it too. You could,
Yeah.
it's a laugh. You take a 10,000 hour withdrawal, 0% for 6 months, you have 10,000 miles. Like, holy cow. That's a coach ticket to, back then, coast to coast. So, yeah, we played that game. I had a Excel spreadsheet going. I think it was manual back. No, it was probably Excel. But, anyway, I started, I came out of law school in 1983, give away my age a little bit. So that's how far back I go.
If somebody's listening to this show and they're like, hey, I've thought about, dabbling in either like real estate flip or short-term rentals, what would be some recommendations you would give them? Like, hey, tips that you've learned over the last, decade or so that, hey, if I would have known this.
Right. Well, they say to get into the corporate housing business, pretty much all you need is a signature and a credit card. You just got to pay that first month's rent, security, and so forth. But clearly, the one thing, there are two things, two barriers to entry. You got to have a nice apartment. When someone walks in that door, well, one, they better have a key, and the apartment better be clean. And then it's truly about relationships, because it's not so easy to approach a landlord and owner and say, basically, I want to Airbnb your apartment. And, we're nothing like Airbnb. Airbnb is typically, the average Airbnb is quite different than a corporate housing company. It's other people's things in the closets that might be locked. Really, truly not 24/7 service. What happens at 3 a.m. in an Airbnb when there's a leak? Well, at Furnished Quarters, we have on-call people who, when that phone call happens at 3 a.m., Furnished Quarters employee will answer the phone, and we have a whole team of folks who can go out and fix these problems. So, but it's got to build a relationship with those landlords, with those building owners, because you're not going to be able to afford to buy all the real estate yourself. Most of our inventory is rented from third parties, friends of ours, big developers. And then you just got to treat your client like you really got to take care of the client, exceed expectations every step of the way. It's really critical. Customer service. You have to have uber customer service for sure.
I say that during COVID, we kind of got away from the service mentality, meaning that and for me, I know that I'm willing to pay a few more dollars if I get that service. And I call it the era of, you can't ever get anybody on the phone, right? I just want to be able to talk to somebody. And I get it. You're like, okay, well, can I save time if you get through this automated system? But I want to talk to somebody, because half the time the issue that I'm experiencing isn't even related to press 1, right? Or press 2 or press 3.
I'm totally with you. In our space, there are many companies now who just rely on their website. Their tech is really slick. Similar to Airbnb, it's great stuff. They have, typically nice products, but to get someone on the phone, impossible. So at Furnished Quarters, we require a 2-hour response time, any phone call, email. We may not solve the problem, but within that 2 hours, we're gonna get in touch. We're gonna answer a phone call, answer an email, and set the expectation of next steps. How are we gonna fix that problem? Owning or renting real estate, there are problems that happen every single day. Everything imaginable, from a leaky toilet to a burst pipe in the wall to a refrigerator that is out of service. So we deal with that every day. And our clients, I have to tell you, I talk about customer service. They're in a stressful situation when you're moving to a temporary home. something is going on in your life where you're being uprooted in some way. You're coming to New York for a hospital stay, temporary assignment, you're away from home, and it's definitely a stressful situation. And our team knows that. And the clients on the other side, the other end of the phone could be, quite stressed. And we got to, handle that and calm them down as best we can.
I like to refer to that as managing emotions, and getting that person on the phone is sometimes that's all you need. A lot of times people just want to be heard, or maybe they're locked out, or maybe, I mean, you never know, right, what it is, but it's like, hey, I got a problem. And then they're probably in an unfamiliar environment, right? And they're just stressed out of their mind, and they just want to hey, I want to be able to go in and lay down and take a nap, or, be able to get in and feel safe, right?
Because there's a lot to moving into a new home. Where do you put the garbage? Where's the dry cleaner? Where do I park my car? Where do I get my key? We use lockboxes on occasion, doormen. There's various ways that we make sure our clients arrive with a key. If they don't have that key, or the key doesn't work, they're going to walk in eventually and say, "Oh, now I got all the other problems with the apartment." So, that initial experience is so important for a happy stay with us.
When you talk about these short-term rentals, give me an idea of, I mean, what that is. Could it be 90 days? Could it be a year or 2 year? I mean, what is short-term rental defined as?
Yeah. Okay. That's a great question, because out there in the press, when you hear about Airbnb and all the laws, the rule changes, most of the laws where municipalities are concerned about Airbnb and sites like that is for the under 30-day stay. So in corporate housing, a traditional stay is 30-day plus, and most regulators across the U.S. Will regulate under 30, but 30 days and above is just like any normal lease. And with few exceptions, that's how our industry works. Our average length of stay is about 100 days at Furnished Quarters. We have literally clients staying 10 years, which is
Wow.
incredible as it may seem, but it does happen. I would say about 15% of our leases are a year or longer. A lot of people come in for 30 or 60 days, and we allow them to extend on 30-day increments. Or if they want to extend just for 10 days at a time, they can do that. So we give them a lot of flexibility, but the requirement in almost every market we're in is 30 days. There are some that we do we'll do under 30, but that's a very, very small part of our business.
In the Midwest, it seems that a lot of people will do corporate housing when it comes to either mining, oil, some of those trades, where they're coming out for a project for a building for a year, 8 months, whatever. But it's so needed, rather than, going into a hotel where you get in there and all of a sudden are you going to be in that room, or maybe you do it a week, or you get it moved around, but corporate housing, they can be like, okay, here you go. You got a place to stay. It's more like home, right? No one likes to be away from home, but
yeah, you're talking about living like a local when you stay with us. So you're in a 300 unit building, let's say in Manhattan, right in the middle of Manhattan, and you're side by side with people who've been there for years. Who wants to be cooped up in a 250 square foot box of a hotel room? Nice to have your bed made every day and so forth. But yeah, you want a kitchen, a living room, and all that comes with it.
I have a nephew that's an electrician, and he lived in Georgia, but most of his jobs were in Oklahoma, or so he'd leave on a Saturday or a Sunday and work all week and then go back. But he went where the jobs were.
Oh yeah, that's quite typical. We do have folks who stay with us who do go away for the 3-day week, and they go back home to wherever, take that flight, drive that car for hours, and be with their family, and they come on right on back, and they're in one of our apartments for 4 days, 5 days.
So are you only focusing on a short-term rental now, or do you have any other real estate, or you just basically you said, are you doing any more flipping?
Sure. Well, no, we're not. We actually, with a few, exceptions, we ended our real estate investment career at the start of Furnished Quarters. And in that time, we have bought a few apartments, but very few. It just takes all of our attention. financing, et cetera, to run this company. We're continuing to expand and grow, even in this tough economy. We go where our clients want us to go, and it's a lot of fun. We enjoy it. We have team members who've been here with us almost from day one. 10 years plus is close to half our company. So it's one big family. We certainly have our family fights, but my brother and I enjoy what we do for sure.
Where do you mentioned the company, it's been around a long time. Where do you see it going in the next 5 years and then the next 10 years?
I'll tell you, it's a lot harder to predict what's going on. I mean, the world, I mentioned earlier, the world is upside down right now, and it's hard to plan. We're actually in budget season right now, right? For next year, we're in the middle of it. And we've got to be quite nimble based upon the economy. We're fortunate that we don't have a board or a bank looking over our shoulder that we have to report to, so it's all internal. But our view, at least currently, the way we're talking is there are markets that we're in and some that we're not in that we see opportunities, based upon our client needs. We have a large, very professional sales team that's out there literally every day talking to corporate America and listening to their needs. But I'll tell you, things have really changed. A lot of our clients come from overseas. They're international guests coming in, and that business has slowed. Visa issues is number one. The fear of just coming to the United States right now. I'm not going to make this a political speech here, but it's real. We're seeing it. Even folks, we have a client. A lot of people in Canada, they're based in Canada. They're not sending people to the U.S. anymore. So we got to be very careful about that. We do book internationally ourselves. We have people sitting in Europe. So we see that business as a growth opportunity for us. But major changes, at least today, of how much movement is going on. Corporate housing, they say that 1 out of every 2 bookings, 1 out of every 2 stays is due to a relocation. So that industry is getting hit pretty hard right now. Initiations for corporate America moving people around has slowed a bit, but it will turn around. I'm quite confident in that. But people are nervous about the economy for sure. So we're going to take a cautious approach.
So maybe not a whole lot of expanding, just maintain, huh?
Maintain, but there are some markets though where for sure, based upon client needs, clients saying we need you here, and we'll on a dime we'll add apartments there. So there are a couple of markets that for sure we're going to be growing in. There might be a market where we're going to slow down a little bit, maybe cut back a little bit. So, but we like to see for next year we're planning about 8% growth in inventory count. So we think we can hit that. And but again, cautious. If the demand is there, we know we can fill the units. We'll grow. But the key to corporate housing, furnished apartments, it's all about occupancy, man. If apartments is vacant, you can't recoup the money for the days that it sits vacant. So that is definitely the key.
So it's interesting you say people are cautious. A lot of people, 8% is not a bad return when you look at overall performance. Obviously you want to do better, but I've heard that the last little while, people are cautious. They're moving, maybe not going to jump in and do something drastic or, but they'll follow the demand and they'll find opportunity. One thing as an entrepreneur is we always shift, right? It's like, okay, where I'm going to find a way to survive and I'm going to find a way to make this work. And that's just what you do. You can't sit back idle and be like, okay, I'm not going to do anything. That's not a solution, right?
Oh, 100%. You got to be creative. I use the word nimble, move on a dime. If we can achieve 8% growth for next year, we'll be very, very pleased. You want to go forward, but again, I keep on saying you got to be cautious because if you expand too much and have too much vacancy, that really hurts your bottom line.
Absolutely.
That's the number one trick for corporate housing is occupancy. You can't survive at, let's say, 80% occupancy. Just doesn't work. Numbers don't work. We pay too much in rent, too much for our team, and everything that goes along with it. It's a high revenue business, and takes a lot to run a company like ours.
I was just thinking I need to have you talk to a couple people that have been on the show when they're corporate, they're doctor staffing companies or nursing staffing companies or temporary labor. I'm like, just thinking about that. I'm like, I've got, I don't know, over 300 episodes, and they're like people that just connect people with staffing, whether or accounting or whatever, temporary stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The nursing for sure. Temporary people don't even, probably most people aren't even aware, but there are traveling nurses.
Yes.
And they, during COVID, boy, I'll tell you, all these nurses coming up from the South to the major cities like New York, they were getting paid a lot of money, given the extreme need. And a lot of those nurses do stay with us. During that COVID period, we switched, who was staying in our apartments? A lot of it was first responders, anything healthcare related. We certainly switched to, for sure.
Well, any last thoughts you'd like to leave with the audience there, Gary?
You know what? To run a successful business, it's all about meeting the expectations of your internal and external customer. Really critical. I mentioned earlier in the talk here that you hang up your phone with a client, they need to know what the next steps are, so they don't have to guess. No one likes to guess. No one likes to be just sitting and waiting and wondering and getting upset about their leaky sink or whatever it is. They need to know when it's going to be fixed and what the next steps are. So that's it. You got to treat your team well. Manage their own expectations. You want to have a nice work environment for them. When they're talking to your guests, whoever it is, your accounting team, your operations team, guest services team, they need to speak with enthusiasm, hear a smile over the phone, so to speak. We're all in guest services. That's what we all chat about, no matter what team you're working at Furnished Quarters or any company. Treat your guests well, and I think it makes for a good environment for everybody.
I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and being on the show today.
As always, share, like, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Ty Brady Way. As always, share, like, and subscribe. Go to Instagram at ty.r.brady. And as always, love hearing from you. And let me know what you want to learn on the show or what you'd like me to bring up on the show. Thanks.
You can find the Ty Brady Way on Instagram as well as Facebook. To stay connected with giveaways and Ty himself, go ahead and follow at ty.r.brady on Instagram as well as Facebook. This podcast was recorded, edited, and produced by Whitney Faith Media Marketing. And the theme music is an excerpt from Hot Chicken of the Woods by Isaac Joel.